A group of U.S. trade officials proposed an increase in exports to Cuba while maintaining political pressure on the Castro regime. This comes amid claims the U.S. could boost its influence in the island nation by lifting it out of poverty. Here's One America's Kristian Rouz.
Certainly, undoubtedly see a change in some policies, and we hope some of those policies relate to Cuba.
The state of Michigan is working to expand its trade with Cuba, despite a tough geostrategic standoff between the U.S. and the Castro regime. A Michigan trade delegation arrived in Havana Thursday to explore the possibility of a mutual trade deal without compromising U.S. policy objectives in the Caribbean. Trade officials refuted the Castro regime's claims of a trade blockade by the U.S., saying a large amount of goods is already going both ways.
Our history is such that as we look at what the president is talking about, as we look at some of the things that he's done in terms of trade agreements, we're optimistic that there may be some room, there may be some light in that doorway. We certainly hope so.
Cuba is currently importing over $2 billion worth of agricultural goods each year, but only $275 million is shipped from the U.S. And while there is hope to increase U.S. presence in the Cuban market, political considerations may challenge such plans. Since taking office in 2017, President Trump suspended the Obama-era deal with Cuba, saying it was one-sided and emboldening the Castro regime to continue its abuses of human rights. The Trump administration has also restricted travel to Cuba and imposed new financial sanctions on regime officials.
We are once again standing up for freedom in our hemisphere. That's why my administration reversed the failing policies of the previous administration on Cuba. We are supporting the hopes of Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans to restore democracy.
Cuban officials, however, rushed to pass U.S. sanctions onto the broader population and then blamed President Trump for worsening economic conditions. In addition, Cuba's support for the Maduro regime in Venezuela and mysterious sonic attacks against the U.S. embassy weren't helpful either. In the meantime, the Cuban economy is spiraling into oblivion amid shortages of fuel and food, a decline in tourism revenues, and the lingering threat of starvation.
Since we are used to U.S. sanctions, we have taken measures for all the consequences. Some we don't publicize. We take them quietly, and when we need to, we share them. We are going to apply our accumulated revolutionary experience and stay steady in our emancipation, resistance, and struggle.
But Michigan officials believe the U.S. could allow the exports of general merchandise to Cuba while maintaining financial pressure on the Castro regime. Some say deeper economic ties between the U.S. and Cuba could eventually drive a wedge between Havana and its traditional partners in Moscow and Beijing.
We have to be relentless in our continual pursuit of opportunities on many different levels here.
However, some believe the White House would insist the Castro regime must improve its human rights record and end destabilizing activities in the region before any agreement on mutual trade could be made. It's unclear if Havana would be willing to make such concessions or if it will continue to sacrifice economic prosperity for regime protection. Kristian, Rouz, One American News.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.